Could your home security camera record an impending disaster before it strikes? The footage you're watching on screen isn't just an ordinary preparation for a move. These people are Bobby and Sherilynn Jamison. On October 8, 2009, as if in a heavy trance, they walk back and forth between their house and their truck exactly 14 times, silently, almost like ghosts. Sometimes they stop and stare into the void, other times they move as if they are watching an invisible enemy. This white truck belonging to the family was found abandoned in a desolate, rugged terrain in Oklahoma. The vehicle was locked. There wasn't a single trace of Bobby, Sherilynn, or their 6-year-old daughter Madyson anywhere around. But when the police broke the window and looked inside, they experienced the real shock. Drug cartels, dark family secrets, cults, and demonic spirits. Today we are diving into one of the most bizarre and unsolved cases in American history. Welcome to Raum Project. Behind every tragedy lies a story trying to appear ordinary. The Jamison family living in Eufaula, Oklahoma, was the perfect picture of that ordinariness from the outside. 44-year-old Bobby, his 40-year-old wife Sherilynn, and their sweet 6-year-old daughter Madyson. Although everything seemed normal in their lives, behind closed doors there was something dark slowly consuming this family. Bobby and Sherilynn wanted to get away from the problems in their lives and make a completely fresh start. Therefore, they decided to buy a 40-acre plot of land in a desolate area near Red Oak, about 50 kilometers south of Eufaula. To escape the city, the people, and perhaps their own inner demons, they were going to build an isolated life at the foothills of the mountains. When the calendar showed October 8, 2009, they began their preparations to set out for their new life. Their home security camera was recording second by second. However, these recordings would soon turn into one of the most chilling pieces of evidence in the hands of the police. In the footage, Bobby and Sherilynn's movements were extremely mechanical and slow. They did not speak a single word to each other. It was as if they were under the influence of heavy medication or in a deep state of hypnosis. They walked back and forth between the house and the vehicle exactly 14 times in complete silence to load their belongings into the truck. There was neither excitement nor rush on their faces, just an empty and blank expression. At one point in the footage, Sherilynn places a brown briefcase into the truck. This detail is crucial because when the police found that truck in the following days, Sherilynn's registered gun and this brown briefcase would never be found. The belongings were loaded and Madyson and their dog Maisie sat in the back seat. The white truck quietly drove out of the frame. That moment would be the last time the Jamison family was ever seen alive in this world. Exactly 8 days had passed since the family's disappearance. When the calendar showed October 16, 2009, a few hunters in the Sansboa Mountains of Oklahoma noticed a white truck parked diagonally across a dirt road. This was an eerie spot deep within the Red Oak area, miles away from the city where not even cell phones had reception. The truck was locked and there was no one around. The hunters immediately reported the situation to the police. When the Latimer County Sheriff arrived at the scene, he thought he was dealing with a routine breakdown or a missing persons case. However, when they broke the vehicle's window and opened the door, the sight they encountered completely changed the course of the event. In the backseat lay Maisie, the little family dog who hadn't seen food or water for 8 days and was on the verge of dying from starvation and dehydration. The poor animal was the only living witness to what had happened to the family, but she couldn't say a word. The truly chilling part, however, was what was left behind in the vehicle. Bobby and Sherilyn's wallets, cell phones, IDs, and the family's GPS device were still in the truck. No one, especially a family with a 6-year-old child, would leave their phones and wallets behind just to go for a casual walk in this desolate forest. But the biggest detail that made the police's blood run cold came from inside a bag hidden under the seat. Exactly $32,000 in cash was just sitting there in wads of bills. What was the source of this money? If this indicated a robbery or a ransom situation, why would the attackers leave tens of thousands of dollars in the vehicle? There was no logical explanation. The family seemed as if they had stepped out of the vehicle for a moment and were swallowed by the darkness of the forest within seconds. Furthermore, there were no signs of a struggle, not a single drop of blood, nor any clear footprints showing the direction they went. The Jamisons had literally evaporated on that desolate mountain road. Subscribe to the Raum Project to trace the lost files. After the discovery of the truck, Sheriff Beauchamp and his team headed to the family's home in Eufaula in hopes of finding answers. However, the scene they encountered when they opened the door, rather than offering a clue, took the case to a much more chilling level. The inside of the house was a mess, but this was no ordinary clutter. It was obvious from every detail that the family had been living in severe paranoia and fear during their final days. According to Sheriff Beauchamp's reports, Sherilyn's registered .22 caliber handgun, which she always carried with her, was missing from the house. That brown briefcase seen on the security camera was also missing. They had taken the gun with them, but why? Who or what were they trying to protect themselves from? The answer to this question was perhaps hidden in the family's increasingly bizarre beliefs. In recent months, Bobby and Sherilynn believed their house had been taken over by spirits. Under the pretext of cleansing the bad energy in the house, Sherilynn had bought the Satanic Bible and started performing strange rituals at home. It was known that Bobby had gone to a pastor stating there were ghosts living on their roof and asking how to deal with these dark entities. According to their claims, the spirit of a little girl named Emily was wandering the house, and Sherilynn claimed to communicate directly with this spirit. However, the darkest finding in the house was much more real and tangible than spirits. During the searches, an 11-page hate-filled letter directed at Bobby, believed to be written by Sherilynn, was found. In the letter, she fiercely accused her husband, pouring her anger toward him into venomous lines. The even more blood-curdling part was the discovery of a strange note among the family's personal belongings that simply read, "I love death." All these pieces of evidence caused a horrifying scenario to form in the sheriff's mind. Could it be that there was no outside threat, no cartel, and no robber? Was this tragedy the result of a madness coming not from the outside, but from the inside, from the very core of the family? There was an abandoned vehicle, $32,000 in cash, a missing gun, and a family who believed in ghosts. The Jamison case was slipping through the police's fingers and turning into a bottomless rabbit hole. As the investigation deepened, 4 main theories emerged, each darker than the last. The first theory was that a drug cartel was involved. Those desolate mountainous regions of Oklahoma were known for illegal methamphetamine labs. Could the slow-motion trance-like state seen on the family's security camera be a sign of drug use? The $32,000 found in the truck seemed like the clearest evidence of a drug deal gone wrong. Perhaps they had seen something they shouldn't have in that isolated forest they went to scout for land and were ruthlessly silenced. The second theory was connected to the family's increasingly bizarre beliefs. the satanic Bible that Sherilynn had bought, the spirits they claimed to communicate with at home, and the eerie rumors of the region. Had the Jamison family been drawn into a dark cult operating in the mountains? The third, and the suspect the police focused on the most, was someone much more familiar: Bobby's biological father, Bob Dean Jamison. Bobby and his father were in a legal battle over the ownership of a family-owned gas station. The chilling part was that Bobby had gone to court, stating that his father had threatened to kill him and his family, and even claimed his father had connections to the underworld, specifically the Mexican mafia. Could his own biological father have hired a hitman and ordered this execution? However, there was a fourth theory gnawing at the investigators' minds, the hardest one to accept: murder-suicide. The 11-page venomous letter Sherilynn wrote to Bobby, the registered gun taken from the house, the severe psychological collapse and paranoia the family was in. Was there no need to look for an outside enemy? Had Bobby or Sherilynn snapped on that mountain road, first destroying the family and then burying this terrible secret deep in the forest? The total absence of any trace of an outsider at the scene significantly strengthened this tragic possibility. Subscribe to the Raum Project to trace the lost files. The secret of the Jamison family remained buried in the dark forests of the Sans Bois Mountains for exactly 4 years. That is, until November 16, 2013. A few hunters who had lost their way about 5 kilometers from the desolate spot where the truck was found came across a horrifying sight among the dried leaves, skulls and bones that were on the verge of blending into the soil. Following forensic examinations, the bitter truth soon became official. The discovered remains belonged to Bobby, Sherilynn, and 6-year-old Madyson. The fact that the remains were found very close to each other indicated that the family spent their final moments together, perhaps holding one another. However, the autopsy report, from which everyone expected enlightening answers, turned into a massive dead end. The bodies had been so ravaged by the elements and wild animals that the medical world could never determine the cause of death. Not a single bullet mark, knife wound, or fracture indicating a struggle was found on the bones. Were they poisoned? Did they freeze to death from hypothermia? Or did they fall victim to a much darker murder that left no trace? The answers to these questions vanished forever in the cold lines of the forensic file that read "Cause of death undetermined." All that remained was the howl of the mountain wind and those questions that could never be fit into a logical framework. Whose was the $32,000 left in the truck? Where was Sherilynn's missing gun? What was the force that drew this family, who walked as if they had surrendered their souls on the security camera into the depths of that eerie forest? Were they running from the demons created by their own minds, or did they face a real flesh and blood demon waiting in those mountains? Perhaps some secrets are meant to remain deep within that forest beneath the soil. So what do you think dragged the Jamison family into that darkness? Share your theories with me in the comments below. See you in the next file we pull out from the darkness, pushing the boundaries of reality. This is Raum Project. Don't take your eyes off the darkness.